Hello, everyone. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of Team Avatar and my Avatar to the Diversity Mahotsav 2024. It is day 7 of this annual event. I am Riya Sakhartande and I will be your host for today's evening. As we start, here are a few hygiene checks for a seamless virtual experience. Please close all other applications on your computer and log out from your organization's VPN to conserve internet bandwidth. We would like to thank our partners, Innovation Catalyst, EPAM Systems, supporting partners, CRISIL, Genesis, and Shuchi Systems. Our social media hashtags are hashtag Diversity Mahotsav, hashtag Celebrating Diversity. Do post your experience at Diversity Mahotsav on your social media handles with these hashtags. I would also like to inform you all that the Diversity Mahotsav episodes are being live streamed on our YouTube channel. You can watch these episodes live on YouTube. All you need to do is click on the link that is pasted on the chat window. Please visit www.myavatar.com to explore various opportunities and activities that celebrate diversity. If you have not registered at myavatar.com yet, do log on to myavatar.com and register now. Browse through to find jobs that might suit your skill sets, read articles of your interest, upskill yourself through various webinars conducted exclusively for you. My dear guests, welcome to Diversity Mahotsav, where the spotlight shines not only on diversity, equity, and inclusion, but on the very essence of what it means to celebrate our human kaleidoscope. At Diversity Mahotsav, conversations will spark change and opportunities will redefine destinies. We at Avatar Group are turning the voltage on diversity. Avatar is hosting the 4th edition of Diversity Mahotsav, which is a 15-day festival of sharing, learning, celebrating the uniqueness of every individual and carrying with us the promise of inclusion into the new year. Hosted on myavatar.com, Avatar's #1 diversity hiring portal is a one-of-its-kind initiative. It aims to look for multi-pronged strategies to explore the world of opportunities out there for diverse groups. And diverse in its approach with experiential sessions, success stories, and skill building workshops. It recognizes that one size doesn't fit all, and there is a need for different levels of interventions. I once again welcome you all on behalf of Team Avatar, India's premier diversity, equity, and inclusion solution firm, and myavatar.com, India's only diversity hiring portal, to the Diversity Mahotsav. Let's celebrate ourselves. And one way to celebrate ourselves is through the uniqueness we bring along with our thought processes through our conversations, because there's so much of us that reflects in it, right? Like our cultures, our background, identities, perceptions, and even our vision for the future. It may not always be easy to have these conversations, but sometimes you meet people who match that energy, and then diversity and inclusion starts meaning so much more. Folks, how many times has it been that you've been in a dialogue exchange with someone and there has been so much energy and intellect to it that you've gone on a thought-provoking journey with a lot of meaty bits to chew on? And you were so happy that you met this person or this group of people, and now you have the chance to create an exchange which pushes you to action and change, an action and the change that you want to be a part of or you wish to be a part of. This is what you will see in today's session. So, welcome to Pride and Beyond. You have me at a hello, conversations that matter. Let me introduce you all to our guests for today. We have with us Harish Reddypalli, KPMG India, who has over 13 years of experience in the HR industry. And Harish is a part of inclusion, diversity, and equity at KPMG India. Harish identifies as a cisgender gay man and is out and proud. He is deeply committed to creating inclusive workplaces and implementing impactful DEI strategies that foster belonging and equal opportunities for all. Harish is an active member of KPMG's Pride Employee Resource Group, where he champions LGBTQ inclusion and advocacy. He resides in Mumbai with his partner Rohan, a Marathi filmmaker. Beyond work, Harish is a passionate Wikipedia enthusiast with keen interest in exploring topics related to history, geopolitics, and science. Welcome, Harish. We also have with us Kamini Sahani, Senior Director, Reinsurance Operations, Client and Customer Services at Marsh McLennan Global Services India. Kamini brings with her 24 years of diverse experience in operations and customer service with specialization in insurance. She has rich experience of working with market leaders and is currently the Guy Carpenter India Regional Leader of the Reinsurance Client Support Services team. Kamini is a proud feminist and a passionate ally of the LGBTQ plus community and believes in equal opportunities and providing a voice to everyone. She chairs the Women Leadership Forum for Marsh McLennan, India, and is a leader of the Colleague Resource Group working towards LGBTQ plus inclusion. She also holds a master's degree in financial management from KJ Somaiya Institute of Management and has completed certification as a coach from the Indian Institute of Management, Bengaluru. She also holds a certificate in customer service management from the Institute of Customer Service, London, and has completed her CERTCII from the Chartered Insurance Institute, UK. She also volunteers as a mentor at Udan India Foundation, a non-profit supported by Marsh McLennan. Welcome to Diversity Mahotsav, Kamini. Moderating the session is our very own Anjuji Parvati, Vice President, Research and Solutions. Research has always been her passion, and in her career spanning 15 years, she has published several papers on women careers and diversity and inclusion in the national and international journal. She's a listed co-inventor of 2 patents at the USPTO, and Anju's tryst with gender analytics started more than a decade back when the 3 M's in her life, which is marriage, maternity, and motherhood, reshaped her approach towards women's careers. So I am delighted to see what we have in store for today. And welcome, Anju. I see you on screen. I hand over the stage to you.
Thank you so much, Ria, for the very warm and energetic introduction. Hello, Harish. Hi, Kamini. It's a pleasure to honor and pleasure to host this conversation with both of you. I think it's a conversation about conversations. So I am definitely here to learn and understand. Harish, in our one-on-one catch-ups, pre-panel, pre-discussion, you spoke about your journey and how conversations around that is important to create the confidence in the society to create those safe spaces for conversations. And Kamini, you also spoke about learning. I was very inspired by both of you, the kind of legacies you have and the kind of identities you have built, and you being here, not only from a speaker contributor point of view, but from a learner point of view. It's very humbling. So delighted. And on behalf of Team Avatar, proud to welcome both of you to this conversation on Pride and Beyond. So let's, it's going to be a free-flowing conversation, and that's going to be the structure for this session. But of course, we have done our prep. For everybody watching, I spoke about all the conversations we had pre the session, right? So we have a set of questions that we have identified to also ensure that we connect to the audience, because You Have Me at a Hello is the title of our session. So how do we then strike powerful conversations and ensure that we create those authentic, safe spaces for everybody to belong? So Harish, I'll go with you first. My first question to you is if you can share about your personal and professional journey of self-discovery, right? It'll set the stage for today's conversation. Over to you, Harish.
Great. Thank you so much, Anju. Thank you so much, Ria. Good evening, everyone. First of all, thanks to Avatar for this great opportunity where I could at least have a platform to speak to you all and connect with you all. And good evening, everyone who's on the live platform and all the participants. I know, as you know, my name is Harish, and thanks for the lovely introduction. Just to quickly give you some insights more about my personal journey, we could start way back. So I grew up in a small town in south and southern part of India. Then I moved to Hyderabad for my post-graduation. The reason I picked up this started to talking about this because, many times, people do ask me this question, like, when you realize that you are from the LGBTQ plus community, or, when you identify yourself part of the spectrum or the gender identity, right? So uh, now I could, when I was in my hometown, I mean, it was in 90s, and I know there was no much internet about YouTube and smartphones, and it was a journey of self-discovery, of self-acceptance, and I had no idea that, of course, there was an interest in opposite, when in the school days, especially, I remember, when all the classmates, when you used to crack for the jokes and all of that, right? Homophobic jokes or something about anything related to these. I used to feel that I was different, and of course, and I knew that I was always attracted to the same gender, and but I thought it was a phase, and I used to think that I was the only one person in the entire world, and likewise, all the people from the community, from LGBTQ plus community. I mean, we all have the same different stories, and we all think that it's something which, because it was not a gender school. In my way back in school, there was no sex education about. Now we are talking more openly and all that, but this was a time which we could not talk. When I moved to Hyderabad, and that's where I met many other people from the community. Then I finally realized that I was not only the person. I felt very happy that there are many other people from the community, and of course, I'm not the only one in the entire world. And there is a definitely larger society, and it's way beyond what I thought. Then I met many people and started making friends. So this is what happens, right? When especially in the community, then you try to build those relationships and the friendships. It's beyond. So then you connect with them and you understand about your sexuality. This was a, when I could say, the milestone. Milestone was about accepting myself that yes, yeah, I'm part of the community. I'm gay. I know I do attract towards the boys, and and something which I realized, and that's where I took a step that so I could of course when when I was when I wanted to discuss with my parents, my family, so I was very hesitant to come out, but I had to take one step because I had a breakup with a boy and I was in a bad depression, and that's how I could come out to my family. And they thought this was like 10 years back story, right? And they thought it was a phase, and they thought initially, maybe you could go for a treatment, maybe it could be a psychological. This is what usually people do think, that people think that it could be a lifestyle that you adopted, right? The Western culture, because way back in your hometown, you were normal. The city changed you to the so-called the gay boy. So they started blaming the city culture. They started blaming the Western culture. They started blaming the culture of more internet and all of that. But I thought, no, I told them very clearly, I've always been the same. It's very much normal. It's not something that it's not a choice that I picked up, right? It's born this way. So, and of course, it took time for them to understand, and then they thought probably I remember my sister used to tell me that, nothing will happen. It's okay. You just get married, so things will be changed. Like, so they used to think that maybe the girls will have a superpower to change my sexual identity. So this is what they used to think, that, just get married. Then I had to tell my sister that, it's not about question of marriage to a person, because, it's not only about my life. It's equally that you're trying to spoil the girl's life, when you knew that. So that's where my people could understand that, this is something which is not, which is very much natural. And so that's, then it was a journey. Then I started with my professional journey as well. Worked in the, being part of the HR industry, and also I could not come out at the workplace because this was like when I started working way back in 2012. Uh, it was in India scene. It was nothing about LGBTQ plus. We could not. So of course there were some few companies were talking about it openly, but still it was a 377 was still existing, and we didn't have gay rights way back. I remember in 2013 when Supreme Court of there was so much of judgment things happened here and there and all that. So finally, when 2018. In my 2018, when people started, when 377 finally got decriminalized, and when we got our rights, so then I could, because then I could start be more confident, So that's where actually it happened, when in KPMG also we started initiatives about some bit of inclusions and all of that. And I thought finally I could come out and I could start talking to my people. So then, so finally I felt that there's no point in wearing mask anymore, and it was very suffocating, right? So now I'm very much happy, and to share, it's very much normal, and that's how we talk. I'd stay with my partner, and he's a filmmaker. We've been staying together. So not every other people in my family know. So this is also a question people do ask, like, so this is something which, so now, because there are few people which are very close to them, and of course they're aware, and there are people, eventually they'll come to know, which now it doesn't matter, and I don't really bother, like, what people would think about it, or what society would think about it. So
Brilliant, brilliant, Harish. Thank you for accepting this space as a safe one and sharing your story very candidly with us. As you shared your story, I could connect the dots and probably also understand that there would have been a lot of conversations with self that you would have had to that would have given you the courage, right? Because in a research that we did at Avatar on the LGBTQ plus inclusion, what we discovered was that the safest space for people from the community to come out was your peer group, was your group of friends, and people who would non-judgmentally accept you. So there was only a minuscule proportion who said that they shared their identities and they came out first with their families. So it was that group that gave them the confidence to embrace their own identity. So thank you for sharing your story so candidly, Harish. I'm going to come back to you and double click on the professional aspects very soon. Kamini, I now move on to you. So you mentioned a very interesting term, colleague resource group, right? The CRGs. And you head that in your organization. So what is the role that you see CRGs play in driving conversations around inclusion, in creating, those the aspect of those, safe spaces where people can become aware and people can, kind of contribute through their allyship. Over to you, Kamini.
Thank you. Thank you, Anju, and thank you, Ria, for the wonderful and detailed introduction. And thank you, Harish. It's really so nice to meet with you on this panel. Yeah, I think interestingly, because in different organizations you hear about these resource groups, and they are called ERGs or PRGs. But as an organization, I think we've consciously decided to call ourselves as colleagues. Like everybody is a colleague, and hence the term colleague resource group. So we started out on this journey around almost 3 years back when we set up an inclusion and diversity council, and that led to the creation of different colleague resource groups. So we have colleague resource groups for disability, we have it for multi-generation, we have it specifically for gender as well. And then we have the last one, which is the LGBTQ one, which I lead. So what we said is that I think the genesis of that was that we did not want this to be an HR initiative, so to say. So we said we want the business leaders who are running large operations teams or delivery teams, or research teams, analytics teams. These are the people, or technology teams for that matter. These are the people who should be stepping forward as the leaders of these CRGs. That is when the organization feels that yes, the leadership is fully invested in this initiative, and it's not just another tick in the box which an HR team is supposed to run. So that's why all these colleague resource groups are run by 4 different business leaders who have large teams as part of either technology or operations. Like you mentioned in my introduction, I do have an operations team, as well. But yeah, this is something that we do out of our passion for it, out of our wanting to drive change, wanting to bring an impact. And the people, the colleagues who are part of this group have voluntarily asked to be part of it. So we reached out to everyone saying, any of these 4 initiatives kind of resonate with you, please come forward and give your names. So there are people who have come forward, who have nominated themselves to be part of these groups. And what we do is collectively as a group, we get together and decide what are the different things that we want to do in the organization. There are so many different initiatives that we are running in all of these 4 CRGs. And we actually had a very nice diversity festival that we had just last month. And that was actually, okay, I thought there was something. All right. That was actually something that ran across all CRGs. So that was like one of the first time we got everyone together. So it was not one CRG running one initiative, but all of us coming together to share that message that we want to come across as a more inclusive organization. And these are some of the messages that we want to pass. So this particular CRG that I lead on LGBTQ, yeah, we do have a couple of people in the organization who are openly out as part of the community. One of them is gay, and the other one is actually a trans individual. And I think we've learned a lot from them as well, because I mean, everyone I think knows, right, that it is a very tough conversation to have, right? Uh, Many people are not really coming forward, and that is absolutely their choice. It's their choice as to when they want to come forward, or op be open about it. But if we don't have enough people in the organization who are open about it, then it does become difficult, right? Because we are not very sure whether we are doing the right thing, whether we are making the right difference, what is it that we need to do. So these two individuals have really helped us in, making a lot of connects with people, helping or actually being our conscious keepers as well, saying, look, this is not what you should have done. Sometimes there are comms that go out, and they come back and tell us that can we make sure that the pronouns are used correctly in the communication as well. So those are some of the smaller aspects which they are able to help us in trying to make that difference. So that's one. And of course we do run a lot of events as well. So we did a Pride March. This CRG got together, and second year in a row this time we did a Pride March inside the office, and it was a huge success. The first time we did it, I was very skeptical as to how many people will actually join us. But it was so heartening to see, a lot of people just joining who are not part of our group as well, but they were just joining in, calling out all those slogans that we had decided that we will say. And we walked through the entire office from all the different floors right up to the cafeteria, where we had got people from a small business owners from the community to come and set up stalls. So we made sure that people kind of got a chance to buy stuff as well. So that's that. And early this year, I think we did a very interesting session with one of our very senior global transformation leaders who had come from the US. He's openly gay as well. And I was very happy to know that he kind of wanted to make that conversation. So we did like a fireside chat with him, and he spoke about few of the things that Harish was saying as well, right? That he felt that he was not able to be very productive at work till the time he was not able to come out. And once he did, then of course, things really looked up for him, and he's now at such a senior position, and he's helping everybody else around him also to speak the right language. So I think I'll pause here because I've you may have a few additional questions. And so yeah, so just wanted to talk about the CRG work that we're doing. Yeah.
Brilliant, Kamini. So it was the researcher and me trying to take quick notes on some of those points that you mentioned. I think, see, even when it is important to have corporate policies and, frameworks around that. Ultimately, it is micro behaviors, everyday things that create that experience of inclusion, right? And you gave us several beautiful instances of how CRGs can drive that, right from the coinage of why it is colleagues resource group and not employee resource group, to create a distinction between this not being just an HR initiative, but a larger business initiative. Excellently said. I'm going to come back to you on a couple of points that you mentioned, but wonderful to know that you had a diversity festival, because diversity Mahotsav that we do at Avatar is all about celebrating diversity. So more power to you. Thank you for sharing that. Harish, I come over to you with my second question, right? And here I'm going to double click on the discrimination aspect and experience that probably hurt you. I think you spoke about very early experiences of, say, how homophobic jokes, right? You felt they were out of place, and you felt they were insensitive. So similar to that, can you share some of those instances and how you managed those instances? Were there conversations that helped the other person understand that, the discrimination is not right, and it is important to accept everyone for their authentic selves. Over to you, Harish.
Great. Okay, so taking a deep pause, there is some stories which you go back and recollect. There were some bad memories, and of course, thankfully that we are into point that India is more accepting. Uh, see, when I started with my journey, right, when I mentioned, so this was the time, we were in, there was no DEI, much things were happening, and of course, people were not really sensitized and all that. People had no clue. It was all about, thanks to some Bollywood films, made a very homophobic Bollywood films who really portrayed a gay character, stereotyping of the whole image. It was all nothing in a good light. It was all something which, made, this was the time. And particularly, in some of my experiences in the previous firms, which I don't want to name, but it was like, when you see the other person, like when you see, people like the way they used to make the comments, right? It could be indirect or direct comments. Looking at the people, like, somebody who's visibly, they feel that, like they used to pass on the homophobic comments. Also, these questions about what did you do over the weekend? So I know they always were very inquisitive to know that, of course, at workplace, we all talk, we don't really talk about, I mean, beyond work, we do share with us, right? Indirectly, directly, that we talk about our families, we share about our wife and husband, our kids. My kid is studying in this school. There was so much of happened with my sister-in-law, daughter-in-law. We keep talking about our families and our friends, etc., and all that, which, which goes beyond the work. And although we say that it's a very professional environment, so this is what usually people do ask me this question. Hey, I'm a heterosexual woman or I'm a heterosexual man. I don't say that I'm a straight man or a straight woman. Why do you need to always say that, you're from the community, I'm a gay man or a lesbian? No, I said that nobody's saying that I'm a gay man every other day. This is not my identity. This is not my label that I always carry forward to you. But it's not something that I always have on my ID card saying that, this is a gay individual which is walking around. Nobody's doing that. It's all about that what you share, what you did, what you want like to share, right? For example, like, my partner is a filmmaker. He makes movies, and there's a conversation beyond that which we talk about. We attend festivals, something which what we did over the weekend. We go on a holiday. We went on a, some place together, but something which is like, my partner is not well, I could say that, he's not well, I need to be at home, I need to take a well-being leave. Something that we always say that, my kid is not well. So this is something, conversations which happens beyond work, and this is something which is very normal. So also there are cases like, people from the community, LGBT people, when there is when they go on some psychological depression, there's so much of marriage pressure happens, this is where it starts, right? And when I'm getting married, so that's where people will actually become more anxious and, how to come out. And people take time to, not everybody's case is different, everyone's case is different, everybody families is different, their upbringing is different. It's not like a roller coaster. The journey won't be it takes time, for people. So at least for them to have a conversation, right? See, I'm not well, right? I'm going through some tough phase with my family, something to talk conversation. So unless until you feel that this is the comfort or a safe space, and you won't be able to talk about it. But at my, the previous homophobic comments were really, there was an instance that the person said there was a movie, there was a person, my colleague, who walked into a bay and started saying that, hey, there was a movie which I started watching last evening. Apparently, it won the Oscar, best Oscar award. But when I thought of watching that film, but the film turned out to be a gay film. This was about Moonlight, which won the Oscar, and she had no clue that, that Moonlight is on on a queer subject. Then he watched it, but he said, like, how could a gay film win an Oscar, right? And this is like, this was beyond, you don't look at the film like it was such a homophobic comment. So when you pass this kind of comments, and of course, I was not I was not out to him, but you try to mask your identity. It was not a welcoming environment where they used to ask me this question, what's happening, what. So I could always, but later when when I shifted to when I joined KPMG, also later in 2018, all the DEI initiatives that started doing it across the firms, and it really gave me confidence that yes, it's better. I mean, there's no point in hiding. There's no point in, because every day, you always I used to always think like, what should I say? It's nothing that right? When you have this basic conversations, right? When we talk about hello, so it was always lies. So now it's more confidence, and it's something which is nothing, whatever is happening in your life, and you could talk very openly, like it doesn't matter. There are people will still, I'm sure, it's not something that we could expect 100% acceptance from people, but it is still okay. This is a journey which we take along through that, and I'm completely okay with that. I hope I could answer.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, Harish. I know as you began, you also mentioned you'll have to reflect on hurtful memories, but more power to you. Thank you for sharing, how you managed and how, that whole acceptance, and when the legislation in the country became more inclusive per se, that emboldened, more initiatives around it. Because,
Agree.
and very true about everyday conversations, Harish. In a very different context, I remember having a conversation with a colleague at work, a young millennial, and she called out saying, most of your lunch conversations revolve around your children and the challenges as a wife and a daughter-in-law, and all of that. Don't you think it is a little exclusionary about of people who do not have children, who are not parents, or who do not want to be parents, and all of that? And it was a moment of truth for me, because I had thought of myself as an inclusive, sensitive individual, but it never struck me that you step into that comfort zone, you stick to those conversations. And from then on, we made a conscious effort to ensure that lunch groups involve everyone. And I can tell you how many great Netflix recommendations I got once the conversation horizons opened, or travel recommendations, food joint recommendations, because conversations never stepped into those territories. So on a lighter note, I just wanted to reflect on that moment of truth for me. So thanks for leading us on there, Harish. I come over to you now, Kamini, on again a question around allyship, right? So, as allies, what approaches have you found most effective in engaging in conversations that matter without overshadowing LGBTQ plus voices? Because the intent, I think, always is to give voice to the diversity community. So how do you ensure that there is no overshadowing, at the same time you empower and they find their voices? Over to you, Kamini.
Yeah. So I think as an ally, what I feel, and this is what I tell everyone as well, whenever we talk about allyship, and whatever my 2 cents are, like I said, I'm still learning to be a better ally. But I think one of the things that I learned a few years back, when I started taking a lot of interest in this community. So I didn't know much about it. Maybe you can say 10 years back, I would say. But as time progressed and I started to hear more about it, and I don't know, it just kind of naturally, organically happened that I started to look for things where I could understand a little bit more. I started following this group on Instagram called P Flag, where I started to hear a lot about, the kind of messages that they were putting out, and the kind of atrocities that can happen to people from this community. And really started to affect me. And I felt that, why should it be like that? Why can't we just let people be whatever they are, instead of just trying to judge people, or trying to put them in a mold that they're supposed to be in. So I just started to develop that slowly and gradually. And one thing so when I started following people, reading articles and all, I started to realize that this one thing that kept coming up everywhere, which is what I have used as well, is that don't be afraid to talk about it, because I think this is one of the biggest problems that we face right now, is what I feel, and that's a problem that I'm trying to correct, is that when people don't know much about something, they don't want to talk about it. So you just steer clear of the conversation, right? That I don't know about this community, I don't know about people from the community, I don't know what challenges they have, so let me not just say anything. I won't say anything, I won't ask anything, and just bypass the whole conversation, right? And that is the biggest problem, because the less you talk about it, the less you will know. So as an ally, I feel that you need to be able to educate yourself, you need to be able to talk about things. And I have told people repeatedly that do not be afraid of saying the wrong thing, because this also comes up, right? What if I say something wrong, or what if I say something inappropriate? So this is one thing that I read somewhere, that it's okay if you said something wrong, or it's okay if you said something inappropriate. Apologize and move on. It's not, people are not going to, this is one thing I've learned, right? People from the community are the least judgmental people, right? They don't care about these things. If you apologize, genuinely apologize, and you want to move on, they are happy. They're not going to say anything to you or keep that grudge, right? So I would say, just talk about these things. These are the things that I tell people in my talks or in my discussions, saying, read up, follow people which can give you more information, that you can become a better ally. Talk about it. So one of the things which we also did in our organization is to come up with these pride colored lanyards. And I saw it in one of our global organizations, and I felt this was a great idea, because it's a great conversation starter as well. Because people ask you, right, what is this all about? There are people who didn't know anything about pride, and they came and said, what is this lanyard? Why is it looking different from the others? And it's a conversation starter. So you explain to them, okay, what does this mean, and what does this stand for? And then when people started saying, "Hey, can I get a lanyard?" and I was like, "It's not a freebie that I give out to people. If you come up and participate in some of our initiatives, participate in some of our discussions, and that's when you get a lanyard. So you have actually taken that effort to be part of our allyship group. That's when you get a lanyard. So that's one of the things, and the other thing is that pronouns, right? One of the other things that we did is run a campaign on pronouns. So pronouns matter as a campaign. And again, I remember going for you mentioned about the IIM course that I did. When I went there, there were at least 2 to 3 people in my batch who came up to me when we start connecting on LinkedIn, and okay, like, what's your profile? And they started asking me, saying, why have you added this pronoun? I mean, this she, her. What does this mean? And I actually sat down at the breakfast table and I gave them a full download of what it means and why is it important. And some of them were really amazed, because it was the first time that they were hearing about it, and they had no clue what that meant. So it's these smaller things that you can do as an ally that can actually lead to conversations and can help people understand the broader spectrum of things. So that's what I would say.
Wonderful, wonderful, Kamini. Again, very practical elements and aspects that you mentioned through the course of the conversation, because in our sessions, we talk about this concept of, so how do you transition from being a passive ally to an active ally, right? So I think even before passive allyship, there is this aspect of bystander. So you just let it pass, as you mentioned, and that is mostly because you're not aware, you do not know how to engage in that conversation. So you just take the safe route out, the easier route out rather, and you do not educate yourself. So having that learner mindset is extremely crucial to be an ally. Completely agree with you, and being open to be vulnerable. So it's okay. We should learn. I think Indians in general do not give ourselves sufficient grace. We have very high benchmarks of perfectionism and saying the right things and not going wrong. That I think is it's not a stereotype, it's a generic fact about India as a whole. So very important point that you brought out, that it is okay if you make mistake, as long as you authentically, genuinely ask, say sorry and apologize. You learn from the experience and you know better, right? So thanks.
And one other thing, sorry, on the, I think in the very beginning when we did a quiz, we ran a quiz, the CRG ran a quiz. And we asked this very simple question to people, saying, what is an ally? And almost, you can say 25 to 30% of the population who took the quiz said that being an ally means you're part of the community. And that itself was such a revelation to us, saying that we have to start our education from here, to tell people that you can be an ally even if you're not part of the community, but please come forward. Ally only means that you want to be a friend, you want to be a supporter, an active supporter, and you want to call out when you see things happening around you which are not right. So that's all that is needed, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, Kamini. Thank you so much for that. Harish, I come over to you while we are on the topic of allyship and allies, right? Our question to you is around the role of allies in influencing your journey, Harish. So, can you share some important conversations you've had, how allies have helped, add value to your journey? Over to you, Harish.
Thanks, Anju. Great inputs, Kamini. So, many times, people do ask me this question, right? So, why do I need to support LGBTQ plus rights? Because I don't identify myself part of the community. So, which fair enough, which we understand. Of course, you're not from the community, you don't have to support for the rights. Nobody's pushing you to do that. But my reply to them is, now, approximately when you say the statistics, no, of course, it is something when you go and check on the Wikipedia page, you will understand 10% of the population, 10 to 12% of the population in India is LGBTQ plus spectrum. People belong to LGBTQ plus, but of course, not it's not something about there are people who are closeted and who are married, not, etc., etc. So that's something which is minority, but it is not a minority, which means out of 100 people, there are 10 people from the community. So people do always think that, hey, I'm okay to support people, but I don't think that anybody in my family or my cousins or my friends are from the community because I don't see anybody because visually nobody looks like a gay or looks like a trans or lesbian, right? So nobody looks like a person. It's all about the identity which they bring across. There are people who would like to come out and who would like to not come out. So there is nothing that the tag on it. So they do think that we don't have why do I need to support it's nobody in that. So my question to you, my reply to them is like do not assume that everybody is heterosexual. So usually we always bring up in a situation or a environment that by default the nature is heterosexual and homosexuality is something like a you genetically modify yourself or transform after a few years and all of that, right? So that's what people do think. It's of course that you adopt this lifestyle. Maybe this is the acting that I'm going to take care of it because I started liking this particular lifestyle. I started liking wearing something different. I started liking it's nothing like that. So just because somebody's not telling you in your family or in your cousins or friends, do not assume that. That's the basic rule. When you think about this, is the basic rule. Of course, you feel that everybody by default is not, you can't assume that everybody is heterosexual. While somebody is coming out and not coming out is something which is completely personal to them. And of course, our aim is not people to tell them to forcefully to come out, right? If they're okay to come out, they can come out. If they don't want to come out, it's okay. It's all about, so you have to be human to support human rights. So LGBTQ plus rights, it's nothing like your society or society. We are very much part of one society. We are all human beings and we are all same. You know, so the more you accept, so what is currently happening, of course, we don't have gay marriages rights in India, right? I mean, and last year it when we don't want to get into much about the history, so but still fighting for it. Though I can be gay, but though my partner and thankfully I'm working in a firm KPMG, which is really great. My partner is nominated as a very much prudent. He's nominee for my insurance, and we attended for the family days, etc. and all of that. But there is no contract or a marriage certificate which is still existing, which is there, right? About the civil rights, what we talk about, inheritance, properties, etc., and all of that. So now, when I talk about, the more you accept, of course, the people are, because of societal pressure, because of marriage pressure. I know many people do get married, willingly, not willingly. So eventually, somebody's not really out and proud, and they do get married. And I know many people do get married to the people, which eventually they realize it leads to so much of problems, right? So that's where the allyship really plays an important role because you don't have to you don't think that we are something which is really different. We're all very much same. In my journey when I started, when I came out, in 2018, when way back at KPMG, the people, so people really started, they didn't make a big issue out of it, right? So I mean, also something about gossiping, what we talk about. So, like for example, I could share my story with one person. It's not like, hey, Harish told me this story because it's someone's story. It never happened like in a situation that via people started talking about my information and all that. It never happened. People were like really open. In fact, they wanted to meet my partner, and so it was one of this office dinner party, Diwali celebration. Usually meet all your colleagues and their families and all that. My people said, why don't you bring Rohan along with you? So, so it was a case that he came to our office. So there was a dinner party you attended. So then all that also, there's some case, there's some times like which it brings a very normal conversation what is happening, so we made it very normal, right? It's nothing something which is very different, and they really gave me a good space that yes, it's not something which is very make a it's just part of life, and you make it as simple as normal as it is. uh, so that really made a huge difference, that we exactly expect from an allies. We don't want something which is very huge acceptance. You don't have to. We don't expect that you to carry just be yourself and don't put so much of questions and don't pressurize people to come out. And it's their story. Let them share their story. If somebody comes and tells you that story, respect it, and unless and until you have the consent from the other person, do not share the story with other people. If and just be normal. Don't be extra empathetic. Don't think like don't feel that something really bad happened to you. There's something. Let's just be normal as much as you can. That's it. That's very important. Yeah.
Beautifully put, Harish. I think a very powerful that point that came through was that once you address why should I be an ally, and you find your answers to that, the how of it is it's a learning curve, right? And I think from both of you, there are quite a few points that the audience today would have learned in terms of how do you become an ally. So thank you so much for sharing that and just being you and giving the other person that space, respecting boundaries, understanding and appreciating that. Thank you so much for that. Kamini, I come over to you in a related point, in fact. So there is this aspect of psychological safety, right? We talk about creating safe spaces. Of course, in India, there are mandates around POSH and everything from a gender sensitivity point of view. But what is fundamental and basic is the aspect and element of psychological safety. So, how do you ensure that people are able to overcome discomfort or hesitation in starting conversations when they engage with people from different backgrounds? How do you ensure that they feel that sense of psychological safety to have those conversations? Over to you, Kamini.
I think Harish actually did a lot of work for me for this question. Because I would probably say the same things that he was saying, that is just about, uh, you know, just being yourself and, giving that space to people to just be, instead of trying to find something somewhere, or tiptoeing like somebody, like you were saying, right? Trying to overdo things or overthink, tiptoeing around things, whether am I supposed to say this, should I say that? Just being your natural authentic self, I think that's all that is required. It's fairly simple, I would say. At least maybe I'm oversimplifying it a bit, but yeah, it is actually like that. I feel that if you, and this is what I have personally seen in my interactions as well, that I don't behave any differently when I'm around people who are from a different background. And it just, conversation just naturally flows. I don't really have to think about, should I say this or should I ask this or not. If I'm just myself, it's just happening. It's just the conversation is naturally happening. And that's why I think people are also comfortable enough to talk to me about it. So there are a couple of people who've actually come up to me and told me that I am actually part of the community, but I'm not yet out to the rest of my colleagues. So there was this opportunity that we had to, on a global platform. They had asked us for nominations, and I was asking people if anybody wants to participate. And this guy reached out to me, and I said, "Are you aware that this is a global platform? So are you okay for it to come out?" And he was like, "Actually, if I can participate anonymously, I would be okay too." So, but I felt that the fact that he was able to come up to me and talk to me, I still felt good about it, that he knew that I will trust. I mean, he had that trust in me that I'm not going to take it forward. And I know I'm not going to tell anybody else, but at least now I know that that person is there. And if I need to ask any questions, if I want to educate myself, there's another person in the organization whom I can reach out to. So I think it's just about being yourself and genuinely trying to do things, right? Not just tick in the boxes because it's an initiative that the company wants to run, and hence I have to do it. But I feel good about it when I do it. I feel passionate about it genuinely, and I think that shows around to people. So that's how it gives them comfort, and that's what I would ask anybody else to do as well, saying that whatever you want to do, little bit or more or whatever, just do it genuinely. Be yourself, and just don't be judgmental, I would say. I think that's such a it's a very simple statement, but it's tough to come by, right? Judgment comes naturally to us as a human tendency, but if you just try to keep that aside, and just treat each other as human beings, like Harish, you said, right? It's being human. That's it. So don't try to overthink, I would say, and just be yourself. So that would really make a difference, I would say.
Absolutely, Kamini. Sometimes simple is good. I think there is nothing called oversimplification. And if probably more and more, and if we need to scale the concept of allyship, and we really need, a large part of our networks to become allies, it's important to look at simple strategies, everyday strategies that we can adopt. Because as much as psychological safety can seem a heavy term, I think it's what you mentioned. Can I knock on the door and speak to you? That's what psychological safety is. Can I meet you somewhere and open up about a challenge I have? That is what psychological safety is about. Thank you so much, Kamini, for addressing that point. I see that a few audience questions have started coming in. Harish, what I'll do is I'll take up the audience question that we have here from the people who have tuned in today. So the title of the topic is very interesting, as what the person says, you have me at a hello. How do you handle situations when people hesitate to begin conversations? What is it that one mindset shift you would call out to everyone out there in the audience? That's the question to you, Harish.
Great. This is interesting question. Thanks for that. See, we've not reached to the journey yet where people are really openly talking, like, in a natural conversation, which is like talking about their life and all of that. The all about the pride, the all about what we do is inclusive. To reach to that point, the ultimate goal. So for me, because I'm part of the inclusion diversity equity team, people say that why do we need to have the team that when we reach to that stage, whether the pride is all about we reach to a stage we don't want to celebrate pride anymore. So that's where the society, that's my ultimate goal, and that's my ultimate aim. So but still we've not reached to that stage, right? So that's why we're doing all this pride celebrations. But usually people do ask this question, hey, why do you have to do the pride march and all that, which is not required. Once we reach there, we don't want to do it anymore. We just like, yeah. So situations where people are hesitant to begin those conversations, right? So again, we likewise there are not everybody is really sensitized, or we really respect that. If somebody don't want to talk about the topic, if they feel that by talking that about the topic of gay lesbian thing, that hey, they assume that just because you're talking about this topic you're from the community, right? So because this is usually people to perceive this mindset shifting is all about, you know I mean, if it's about, so of course you cannot force somebody to talk on any topic, or you can't force people to accept you. It's their choice and it's their nature, but you try to at least explain them why it is important, right? Likewise, one of my conversation which I spoke about, this team, that team, no, it's all one society, it's all one, though we just named LGBTQ plus, but we all part of one society. And the mind shift would say that maybe you don't have to be, likewise when I you don't have to be women to support for women rights, right? Also you don't have to be a person from the LGBTQ plus community to support for LGBTQ plus rights. You have to be human to support for human rights. Maybe that human angle, if somebody has it in their mind, of course it will shift. And so when you accept things, when you start accepting things, when you look at things differently, nothing makes you more barrier, the whole things that you don't want to talk about and all that, which makes very normal. Uh, it's hesitant to begin the conversations. You can just start talking to them. I know why it is important. Likewise, one of this good thing is that, my other colleague was saying that, hey, this was again the conversation because he was not really hesitant to talk to me. Say, I don't see any reason that, I should talk about this topic and all that. Then I said, for example, when you look at a person, maybe if if somebody is getting married, right? So when you look for matches, so usually, see, I would talk about from a gay man perspective, not entire covering from a LGBTQ perspective, because usually when you look for matches for your daughter or to your sister, usually check that if the person is well educated or working well or earning well from a good family background, etc., and all of that. Like they say that you check 7 years background or seven families background and all that, right? This is usually you check, but you don't really check if the person is really interested with the girl or not. If the person is really, because people do mask, right, their identity, and people do have this forceful marriages. People do have it. People are still getting married. Not everybody is out and proud. So so unless and until, so that way it is important that unless until you don't accept about this, eventually how the society, this will continue to happen, right? So they should, yeah.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Very valid point, Harish. So it is about, again, those everyday things that we do and ensuring that that trust and respect is there throughout. Thank you for sharing that point. We are at 4:56. I think we are done with our questions. I have one last question for you, Kamini. So we spoke about, and it was a very inspiring point of inclusion and action when you mentioned that you conducted a pride walk inside the office and you just had people joining in relating to the energy. It was just that. How do you think we can take that spirit to the larger society as a whole? Is there something that each one of us can do, Kamini? That was my question to you.
I think what each one of us can do, I would personally say that, how can you have these conversations in your circle of influence? Like I know I've had friends from my previous organizations who've kind of, whom I'm in touch with now, even now, and they've kind of said, oh, what is it that you keep doing all these events? And, and they kind of sometimes try to make jokes about it. And I turned around and said, it's not okay. It's not funny. I mean, you're my good friend. I like you, but I'm not going to accept this as a joke. And these are some of the tough things that you sometimes you have to take that stand, right, in your own circle of influence, whether it's your family, it's your friends. How do you talk about these things in your day-to-day interactions? How do you accept some of the jokes, like Harish was saying, right? Are you just accepting that joke because it's just a joke, or you sometimes are you able to put your foot down and say that I'm not okay to have a joke like this around me, and it's not funny. So those are some of the things that I do personally. So over a period of time, it has become more and more. I've become more and more vocal about these things, and in fact, I was at an event, a diversity event, I think earlier this year, and one of the other members from another organization, I was telling her that sometimes now my friends are actually afraid to say things in front of me, saying that, oh my God, Kamini is here, we can't say this, otherwise she'll get angry. And she actually turned on and said that, is it now the other way? They are not feeling included in your conversation. So, it was like, we just trying to make light of the situation. But yeah, it is like that, are you able to, I'm not saying everybody should be like me, but I'm saying that at least, are you able to make that small change in your life with people around you to say, okay, what is acceptable and what is just not acceptable? Can you at least keep that in your head and say that, look, somewhere I will draw the line and say I'm not ready to accept this kind of conversation in my surrounding. So I think that's one of the only first things that you can do, right? Because it's in your control.
Absolutely, absolutely, Kamini. Very, very well said. And yes, sometimes we have to be those flag bearers, the ones who would call out anything that is insensitive. Thank you so much for sharing that. With that, we come to the end of this very, very inspiring conversation. It's as personally as an LGBTQ plus ally and as somebody who has watched the landscape move in corporate India. So at Avatar, we conduct this study called the Avatar author in Seramount Most Inclusive Companies Index. Harish, you would know KPMG has been part of the champion of inclusion for the commitment towards all strands of diversity, including the LGBTQ plus community. Kamini, seeing how passionate an ally you are and the kind of some brilliant work happening at McLennan, we look forward to your brand participating in the study and shining as well. And look forward, I think the message is out there loud and clear. When we started the study, I think there were only less than 20% companies on the index who said that they have support groups around LGBTQ plus inclusion, and that's a focus area. But last time we checked, it has grown to over 89%, and that's a very heartening growth and statistic to look at. So we look forward to those numbers getting to an absolute 100% and for Pride and Beyond to flourish. With that, we close the conversation today. Thank you so much for joining, and it's back to you, Ria.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anju. That was a very well moderated conversation, and I loved how you reflected on your moments of truth. We went along the conversation. Very warm. Thank you so much, Harish, for sharing your story, your journey. As Anju said, thank you for thinking of this as a safe space, and you've beautifully captured the need to be human and support human rights and respect each other. That's just normal. Thank you, Kamini, for giving us an insight into what it means to be an ally, and not just in terms of providing support, but the ability to come with an open mind and respect. And, after all, it's employees like you that make the workplace human-friendly. And I love how you introduced yourself as someone who is trying to be a better ally, because it's a process. You have to learn, unlearn, relearn. Thank you, both of you, Harish and Kamini, and thank you, Anju. There was a lot to learn from you. Audience members, I request you to stay back for a few quick announcements. We've designed a dynamic lineup for this week and the next, from panel discussions featuring trailblazers, breaking stereotypes, to workshops equipping you with skills to ace the workplace. Every moment is curated to empower you. We'll also hear from industry leaders who have not only reimagined inclusion, but have also turned it into action, proving that diverse voices lead to extraordinary outcomes. Thank you for the wonderful participation. You have been a wonderful audience. With this, we have completed day 7 of our December month celebration, which is Diversity Mahotsav. Tomorrow, we have a very interesting session lined up for you. It's called Lightning Talks, Still Pioneering, Women in Manufacturing. We have with us for the session Aditi Gupta, Head of Human Resources, Tata Motors, Sangamitra Bharti, DGM Operations, Steel Melting Shop, JSW Steel, P. Pratima, Deputy Manager, Bosch Power Tools Plant. And moderating this session is Veena Mukund, Assistant Vice President, Client Services Avtar Group. Watch this session here, same time tomorrow. Our social media hashtags are #Diversity Mahotsav, #Celebrating Diversity. Do post your experience at Diversity Mahotsav on your social media handles with these hashtags. On behalf of Team Avtar, I thank each one of you and welcome you to the coming days of Diversity Mahotsav. Please remember, Diversity Mahotsav is between December 2 and 20th, and it's only on weekdays between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. You can also visit www.myavtar.com to explore various opportunities and activities that celebrate diversity. If you have not registered at myavtar.com yet, please do so. And you can browse through to find jobs that might suit your skill sets, read articles of interest, upskill yourself through various webinars conducted exclusively for you. I would once again like to thank our sponsors, Innovation Catalyst, EPAM Systems, supporting partners, Crisil, Genesis, and Chuchi Systems. As we draw close to the day, I am going to request you to take a couple of minutes to provide your feedback on today's session. Can we have the poll, please? Thank you. So we have questions here, and you can rate yourself. So the questions are: please rate the overall session management on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. Rate the speaker's ability to engage in today's session on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. Rate the content shared by the speaker on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. Did the session meet your expectations? It's a yes or no question. Do you have any suggestions that could have made the session better? And what more topics would you like to hear in the future sessions. Please do take 3 to 5 minutes to fill in this feedback. Your feedback is extremely important to us. I would like to thank you all once again for joining today's session. Signing off today, I'm Riya Sakar Dande. Take care and stay safe.